first semifinal appearance. Just what's your emotional state right now?
Normal, I think. It's practice. Trying to prepare like anybody else would, like any other day. But keep the main thing. That's all you can do.
What happens when a player the league ignored for years suddenly forces her way into the MVP conversation? That's exactly what's happening with Kelsey Mitchell. And trust me, it has the entire WNBA world losing its mind. For some fans, it's overdue recognition. For others, it's pure controversy. But one thing's for sure. Mitchell's rise to MVP finalist wasn't supposed to happen, and that's what makes this story so powerful. To understand how shocking this really is, you need to know how the league treated her before this moment. When the WNBA announced not 3, not 4, but 5 MVP finalists this season, it turned heads. Usually, the conversation feels predictable. A'ja Wilson, Alyssa Thomas, Nafisa Collier, Breanna Stewart. The league's established royalty. But this year, a new name slid into the lineup, and it wasn't one the critics ever expected to see. Kelsey Mitchell, a player many labeled as good but not great, is now standing shoulder to shoulder with the WNBA's most decorated stars. Fans went into meltdown mode. Fever supporters celebrated like they just won a championship, while rival fan bases rushed online to call it a joke. And the so-called experts, they scrambled to justify how they spent years ignoring her production. But here's the thing. This didn't happen overnight. To really get it, you've got to rewind back to the forgotten years when Mitchell was scoring in silence.
Tell your younger self.
Yeah.
How would you explain to her to make sure that you give yourself grace and give you the flowers that you so willingly deserve?
I think the best thing I could have done was, I had a long list. I wrote down a list of all the times I could have quit, been a pro, playing with the Indiana Fever. I wrote down all the people that wrote me off. I wrote it down on a list. I wrote down all the coaches that didn't want me around. I wrote down all the media outlets that didn't want to talk to me. I think that within itself is like, you gotta tell your younger self not to give up on you. Because there's been a lot of times I could have given up when I know a lot of people that talk to me now weren't talking to me, and I know what it was like when they wasn't. So that part is big for me.
For most of her career, Kelsey Mitchell's story barely made a ripple outside Indiana. After Tamika Catchings retired, the Fever drifted into irrelevance. Bad draft picks, shaky coaching hires, and endless losing seasons left the franchise with no direction. And stuck in the middle of that chaos was Mitchell. From the moment she arrived in 2018, she could score. Night after night, she'd pour in 18, 19, even 20 points. But the team kept losing, so the narrative was simple. She's just a scorer on a bad team. Analysts brushed off her numbers as empty stats, and fans outside Indiana barely noticed she existed. It was like she was playing in the shadows, waiting for something bigger to come along. And that something bigger did come, in the form of a rookie who shifted the entire spotlight back onto Indiana. When Aaliyah Boston landed in Indiana, everything changed. Finally, the Fever had a rising star who could anchor the franchise. Suddenly, people were tuning into Fever games again. Mitchell was still producing, but the storyline was all about Boston. Then came Caitlin Clark, the golden child of women's basketball. Overnight, the Fever went from being irrelevant to the most talked about team in the league. All eyes were on Clark, the ratings magnet, the face ESPN couldn't stop showing. The assumption? Mitchell would fade into the background, playing second fiddle at best. But instead of shrinking, her game grew. Playing alongside Clark created more space, more opportunity, and Mitchell seized it. The same critics who once dismissed her suddenly had no choice but to notice, because the Kelsey Mitchell we see now isn't just surviving next to stars. She's thriving, and that transformation is impossible to ignore.
That time, keeping the pivot foot alive and going strong side for Wilson.
Mitchell this time finds a lane to the basket. Inside to Turner. Nice look from Mitchell, which follows 5 Eastern time on ESPN. Mitchell. Lot of arc on that and a couple of bounces.
Here's where things flipped. Defenses that used to zero in on Mitchell now had to split their focus between her, Boston, and Clark. That opened the floor in ways she'd never experienced before, and she made teams pay for it. Mid-range jumpers, deep threes, slicing drives, possession after possession, she became a nightmare to guard. And this wasn't just about scoring anymore. For the first time, her production led to real wins. Indiana was no longer a bottom feeder. They were competing, climbing, and making the playoffs again. Suddenly, her game wasn't empty stats. It was MVP caliber impact. And of course, nothing irritates critics more than realizing the player they dismissed for years is now proving them wrong on the biggest stage. The backlash was immediate. Rival fans from New York, Las Vegas, and Minnesota exploded online, demanding to know why their favorites weren't chosen instead. Liberty fans cried for Breanna Stewart, Lynx fans wanted more love for Kayla McBride, and Aces fans argued the award should just automatically go to Aja Wilson. But beneath the noise, one truth stood out. Kelsey Mitchell had forced her way into the conversation. For years, analysts claimed her style was too one-dimensional, too ISO-heavy, and impossible to win with. Now those same voices had to explain how her scoring suddenly translated into victories. The excuses evaporated, and the haters were left scrambling. But Mitchell's story isn't just about silencing critics. It's also about the grind. Years of steady progress that most people completely overlooked.
He's done that. 5-point advantage for Indy. Trying to go inside. Terrific defense by Mitchell to deny Lloyd. It's Mitchell, guarded by Evans. Screen from Turner. Kelsey Mitchell knocks down another shot.
No one is accountable for Hall.
It's Mitchell. Come on.
Unlike the flashy rookies who grab headlines overnight, Mitchell's journey was about persistence. Since 2018, she chipped away at her weaknesses. She tightened her handle, refined her shot selection, and expanded her range. Each year, she came back better than the last, even if nobody outside Indiana noticed. Now in her prime, she's the complete version of the player she was always meant to be. And that's what makes her MVP finalist spot so important. It's not about actually winning the award. Everyone knows Aja Wilson is the favorite. It's about recognition. It's about the league finally admitting what Indiana fans already knew. Mitchell belongs among the best. And this recognition isn't just a personal victory. It's reshaping the entire identity of the Fever. Think about where Indiana was just a few years ago. Irrelevant, ignored, and bottom of the standings. Now, they've got a core of stars that can rival anyone. Boston, the all-star big, Clark, the phenom, and Mitchell, now validated as elite. This isn't just about one player's breakthrough. It's a full franchise turnaround. Back-to-back seasons with MVP finalists is no accident. Free agents are taking notice. The Fever suddenly look like a team that can attract talent, compete deep into the playoffs, and maybe even build a dynasty. And right in the center of that transformation is the one player who endured the worst years, Kelsey Mitchell. Which brings us to her legacy, and why this moment changes how she'll be remembered forever. For years, Mitchell was dismissed as just a scorer. But now that label is gone. She's officially one of the league's top 5 players, and that changes everything. Coaches prepare differently for her. Commentators speak about her differently. Fans see her differently. Even if she finishes 5th in the voting, the message is loud and clear. Her value is undeniable. Without her, Clark's transition would have been rockier. Without her, Boston would face double teams every game. Without her, Indiana wouldn't be in the playoff picture. Her story is proof that persistence matters, that talent doesn't fade just because critics choose to ignore it, and that sometimes the most overlooked players become the ones who rewrite the conversation. Which brings us back to the question we started with. What happens when the league can't ignore you anymore? Kelsey Mitchell's rise to MVP finalist status is more than just a nomination. It's validation. It's payback for years of being overlooked. And it's a reminder that greatness doesn't always come with hype, headlines, or marketing campaigns. Sometimes it comes from quietly putting in the work until the world has no choice but to notice. She may not walk away with the trophy, but make no mistake, Kelsey Mitchell has already won something far bigger: respect. And that, more than any award, is what will define her legacy in the WNBA